Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Route of egress. In the event of an emergency, all people may exit right or left from this room and proceed to an exit door. All doors will open from the inside. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Hamilton Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the North Jersey Herald, the board's official newspaper, on January 15th, 2025. Notices of this meeting indicating date, time, and place were posted publicly on the door of the main entrance to the school and filed with the clerk in the municipality of Haledon. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Serna?
Here.
Mr. Coletta?
Here.
Ms. Quadrado?
Here.
Mr. Gusman? Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Martinez?
Here.
Mr. Matzo?
Here.
Mr. Ramadan? And Mrs. Issa.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, so we have recognition of 3 staff who are retiring. I see that they're not here. Are any of them online, Mr. Miller?
So
I don't think so.
if they're not able to make it, I'm happy to give it to them tomorrow, or if they come late, we can always just interrupt the procedures and go right back to giving them the award.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So then let's move on to correspondence. Can I have a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Serna? Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson? Yes. Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Here.
And Mrs. Issa.
Yes. Okay, for prior minutes, so we don't have the minutes for the executive session from
No.
the last meeting. Will they come at the next meeting?
No, it is. 521 or which meeting is it?
Yeah, the 521 executive session. Do we need any attachment there that we can approve
I see it.
or accept?
It's there on the bottom.
I see that.
Oh, let me see. Oh, maybe it's under executive session. Oh, it's not coming up, but maybe I'm logged in on the public.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so can I have a motion to accept? So let's do both. The regular meeting minutes and the executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Ms. Quadrado. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Serna? Mr. Coletta?
Abstain.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson? Yes. Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Issa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on agenda items only?
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Coletta. Roll call, please.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody online, Mr. Miller? Can I have a motion to close?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to reports. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to start off by congratulating 3 members of the HPS staff who will be retiring at the end of this year. So Senora Rivera, I actually had, spoken a little bit about her when it was announced on the March 26th agenda that she would be retiring. So, we just want, on behalf of the board, we just want to congratulate her on her retirement. She's been here 15 years now. So she has surely touched the lives of many, many students and made, relationships with colleagues, and she will be missed. So we wish Senora Rivera the best in her retirement. We thank her for her dedication and service. Ms. Guerrero, this is also, she was also, her retirement was announced at the April 30th meeting. And I spoke a little bit about them. We just want to thank her for she was actually here 22 years, which I did not realize at the time. That's wonderful. And during all that time, I'm sure she worked tirelessly to keep this building clean, and especially during COVID when it was so important to sanitize and, you know, all of that. So we thank her, you know, sincerely for her work and her dedication to HPS and the students and staff. And Mrs. Fawcett's was just announced on this agenda. I know she was not able to attend tonight's meeting. I want to thank her for her 24 years of dedication and service to HPS students and the community. As adults and even teenagers, not everyone remembers their second grade teacher, but I know several teenagers who remember Ms. Fawcett with so much fondness and have even called her their favorite teacher at HPS. That speaks a lot to not just the instruction, but the kindness and care that Ms. Fawcett has given to her students over the years. She will surely be missed, not just by students, but by HPS families as well as her colleagues. So thank you, Ms. Fawcett, for all the years of dedicated service and care to the HPS community. And in addition, I also want to wish Ms. Toscano, our wonderful art teacher, here for 7 years, all the best in her future endeavors. A lot of art is displayed throughout the building on the walls, and I'm sure in the homes of many of her students. I know the artwork that my kids did in her class was displayed in our house for, you know, many years. So thank you, Ms. Toscano, and we wish you the best of luck. And also we're wishing the best of luck to Ms. Ianello she's a caregiver with aftercare, and, you know, best of luck in her future endeavors. Secondly, and on a very sad note, I want to acknowledge the sudden and tragic passing of an HPS and Manchester graduate, Alexander Kosick, who was just 20 years old. On behalf of the Haledon Board of Education, I extend our deepest condolences to Alexander's parents, family, and friends. There was a beautiful candlelight vigil last night in Alexander's memory, and it was moving to see how many of his friends, so many from HPS and Manchester, were there to support his family and to honor his memory. So our deepest condolences to his family. Next, I want to thank our art teachers, Ms. Toscano and Ms. Haptek, for creating a beautiful mural to honor the memory of the HPS 8th grader that we lost this year, Giselle Winter. The mural was unveiled today and represents Giselle's spirit as well as hope and support for all students. Lastly, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Guzman and Ms. Cerna on being nominated and elected as the Passaic County School Boards Association first Vice President and Membership Committee Chair, respectively, for the 2025-2027 school years. Mr. Guzman and Ms. Cerna, we wish you good luck in these new roles and look forward to hearing all about the things you're working on and how they can benefit our board. And I had mentioned at a previous meeting that Mr. Guzman was being recognized at the county meeting on May 28th for 10 years of board service. But I also want to recognize at that meeting were Ms. Quadrado and Mr. Ramadan for earning their new board member certification. So congratulations to both of them. Okay, and that's it for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Waka.
Thank you, Board President Isa. I want to report to the board that we had a successful school evacuation last week, and we wish to once again thank the Haledon Police Department for their awesome cooperation. And we talked about in the previous board meeting about the idea of getting the K-9 squad from the county to come do a sweep just for good measure, and they did. And we're pleased to report that they found no contraband. It was good that they were able to come to our campus and just do a full sweep with the dogs. As for the drill itself, it went tremendously successful, and I want to thank SRO Funes and Ms. Lozano for their work in planning this important security measure. I also want to thank Ms. Toscano as well as Ms. Fawcett and Ms. Rivera for their years of service at HPS. I agree with what you said, like Ms. Toscano, when you see her legacy, like visually, and in almost any hallway you walk into. And I think the same can be said for Ms. Rivera and Senior Rivera and Ms. Fawcett as far as their place in the students' hearts and families' hearts. So those are three big losses, but we're just so grateful that they were part of our team for as long as they were. I also want to say a major thank you to our PTA. We held the carnival last week. It was great despite the warm temperature. I know Ms. Cerna was out there at one of the stations. The kids seem to have had a blast, and we're so incredibly fortunate to have a PTA that's, able to do so much. And then that very night, they doubled down, and we had we went to the Tides in North Haven for the 8th grade dance, and everyone was well behaved, and the PTA did another fantastic event with that. So thank you for everyone that helped with that. On the policy front, there's a new policy we're going to have to make before the start of the next school year. It will be that we need to create a policy about sunscreen usage. The two main parameters that we're going to have to make is that this was that A, we must allow students to use sunscreen should they wish to apply it, and B, we can't require that teachers apply sunscreen to students. From my perspective, I totally agree that I want students to be able to use sunscreen if they want to, or if mom or dad wants to. I think it's also reasonable for parents to apply sunscreen to their child before school, or if the students are old enough to allow them to put it on themselves. So Strauss estimated enough that they're going to give a sample policy, and then I'll look to, if it looks like it's something that's going to be best held in public, I'll look to move forward on it. But if there's any tweaks that need to be made, then we'll look to make them and ask the board to approve. And finally, two things actually. Lastly, we're on our home stretch. If you look at our calendar, every day the past few weeks and for the next few weeks, it's going to be a busy day. All this will culminate when we have our graduation ceremony the night of the 25th. The board members will be receiving invitations with RSVP information. And then Lamika probably is going to want to touch on this, but for item 6 is that we have we've made the initial stages of planning for both our front door entrance security reconfiguration project, as well as the HVAC project. The HVAC is going to bring rooms to Ms. Birdie's room or Ms. Kano's room, like the interior of the second floor and the interior of the first floor, where we haven't gotten as much airflow because there's no windows there. So it looks like that for July, the front entrance is going to be their construction site, right? So we're going to create a temporary front entrance probably for July, maybe a little bit of August. It's going to be our 5th grade entrance. We're going to move the security officer there. That's going to be our de facto front entrance, and it will be like that. It'll be uncomfortable for about 6 weeks, but we've operated in uncomfortability and still been able to manage the school district. And then by mid-August, the project should be finished. We should have a newly designed front entrance, and then I'll have more to talk about this on the 30th once we have more meetings with the architect and the planners. But it's the same organization that built our expansion. They're the ones doing our front security project. And the HVAC project, they were very receptive. They answered every question we had when I met with the two gentlemen from that company. So I expect both projects to keep going well, just like our construction did, just like our playground did, and all the other things we've been doing these last couple of years. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any questions for Mr. Walker?
Madam President, on March 12th, we asked at the board meeting Mr. Walker about a audit and/or study regarding the positions. To see nothing has been brought up to it at this point. I wasn't sure if we should ask now during the report if there's any movement on that, or if it should wait till further into the meeting.
Yeah, so Ms. Augustin is going to just talk about that a little bit during her report.
Sure.
And I'll hold my comments after you give your report on that. Any other questions?
I just want to know, like, the policy for the sunscreen, how long, what's the ETA on that?
So we have to develop it before, I just found out this last week. We have to develop it before this academic school year starts. So it's got to be in place by September 5th. I think it's the first day for kids next year. So I imagine this will be a July or an August board meeting thing I'll have up there. But unless anyone, I think everyone on this board wants kids to have sunscreen, right? And I imagine everyone, wants us to make a reasonable policy, so that's what we'll look to do.
But that's more towards the summertime.
That'll be a
right?
summertime thing where you
that'd be
guys come out.
summertime thing, not even when they bring it in for September or something, that is not something that.
But what triggered the policy for sunscreen? I don't understand.
I got hey Jeff, do you know what the impetus behind the sunscreen law, or what how that came about?
Actually, I don't. It came out from nowhere, just like a week ago.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
You would think that there already would have been a sunscreen policy, but
I can only imagine some school must have said no sunscreen, or another school said sunscreen, but teachers have to apply it.
right.
I imagine that there must have been some conflict in either of those two areas where that's the first thing they said has to be the parameters of the rule. But I'm sure at HPS we're going to make a very sensible policy.
So it's like the phone thing, though, right? Now they may ban phones out of schools. Well, there's just
They
Some
could,
have.
places,
they
right?
could.
Right, so they were talking
The
about,
phone
yeah,
I
the
could
blockers and everything.
associate, no, when it comes to the phone, I could associate, but sunscreen, was there any harm or anything
I don't know what the,
presented that triggers something?
I wish I knew the background, I
Sunscreen
don't.
is sunscreen, you know, whether you
It
put
could
on or
be
don't.
like related to like the Board of Health or something, like, you know. health
Allergies or
department or something.
Well, it's all good,
Yeah,
right?
it
Sunscreen
is.
is all good, so.
LED lights.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to our board administrator, Ms. Oxton.
Okay, so I have a few things to discuss other than the agenda items. So just want to remind everyone about the conference. You'll probably hear me say it every time we meet. I just would like to know if you're definitely attending. If you're not attending, or if you're attending partially, let me know so that we can make the changes and that the district won't have to put out the money ahead of time or, work on getting a refund later on. So let me know as soon as possible. The other thing is everyone would receive the invitation for a Manchester graduation. If you want to attend, let me know. I do have a sign-up sheet so we can make sure that you guys have a seat, with the other board members there, so we can have that information well ahead of time. The other item is the HVAC bid opening, like Mr. Walker was talking about the security vestibule. We did have a meeting, our first initial meeting, so we just worked out the schedule. He pretty much covered everything we discussed. But tomorrow we do have our HVAC opening for selected classrooms. So if anyone wants to be present, I always invite you guys. It's at 11:30. We accept the bids, we'll open them up and we'll discuss the pricing out loud. Other vendors will show up and we'll, go through the bid practicing. And then most of the time, the bidders wants to see who the subs are, but we'll go through all that. We'll jot it down, we'll make it official, and then we'll send the bid packaging to Mr. Berlino to review for any material defects. So that will be 11:30 tomorrow if anyone's interested in attending. The last thing I wanted to discuss, I had sent out an email to Madam President and Mr. Waka. I attended my BA conference last week, and I was able to discuss some options for us for the staff efficiency analysis that we've been discussing for the last few board meetings. So I did identify at least 2 retired BAs that do such services, and I'm going to speak with them and see if this is something that will match what the board is looking for. And I did identify also a vendor that Manchester had used a couple years ago, and I will talk to that consultant to see if that is something that will mirror or match what we're looking for as well. So I'll talk to all 3 consultants. I'll bring back what they will be able to do for us, and I also will take any comments on what everyone is looking for, so I can see if this is something that we can have these consultants do for us in the next, couple of months. It's not going to be done by June 30th, so I want everyone to be aware that I don't know what it entails, because this is something, we're probably putting together a la carte, depending on what we want, but it's going to probably take some time. They're going to look at our data and they're going to do an assessment and an analysis, and I'm going to ask them to come here and present to you guys once it's done. So I think that will be the best way. It keeps us out of the process, and you guys can have this information on an unbiased atmosphere, okay? If that works for everyone, I'll move forward with that. Like I said, I already made some contacts at my BA conference, and they seem that they can be able to help us and assist us in this process. Do we have any questions on that, or any comments, or anything I can bring back?
Madam President,
Yes.
I have a question for Madam DA, as it pertains to that. I was going to suggest perhaps that we create an ad hoc committee for this, because this is something that's new. This is something that, I've been here for 10 years. We've never done anything like this. So I don't want it to send any shockwave through our district. I don't want anyone to be concerned. I want it to be transparent. This is my personal opinion. So if you have an ad hoc committee and you appoint, let's say, a chairperson, and that committee will consist of obviously your superintendent, your BA, anybody else who sees fit, Madam President. But I would ask that the HEA sit in on that because it will show transparency, it will show good faith, and it will show the entire school community that we're doing this in good faith. We're not trying to limit anything. I think every single board member here has said that. It's just doing what analysis that some board members suggested. And then ultimately the entire board has the decision as to where that goes. That's just my suggestion as we vet this, because the last thing we want is any rumors or anyone thinking that we're up to something that we're not. So we're doing it in a manner that's transparent, that's open. I think the teachers will be able to sleep better at night, as well as the entire school community. That's just my 2 cents, and that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I do agree in some parts of that, but I want it to be an independent, unbiased process. Because once you create a committee, it starts to go into different directions. And then hopefully the consultant will be able to do their job without being steered in a direction, instead of, taking the data, pure information, and doing the analysis independently. So I think committees are great, but I think also there's a process where the process get lost because everyone comes with a different opinion. So we can keep the transparency on the results, or give updates, but I think having a committee might skew the ending results.
So what if we have the agency or the consultant, whoever it is, do the study, and then the personnel and management, Mr. Guzman, you're the chair of that committee, the personnel and management committee can, I don't know, just meet beforehand, maybe view the results, and I don't know, something like what, or get an update, something like to the effect of what you're saying, Ms. Augustin, be involved somehow once the study is done, so that the study remains kind of, objective and intact without any board members, or HEA members or whoever, anybody outside of that agency being involved in it. Let them do the study and then meet with the personnel and management committee. And then, you can invite, the president, maybe the president, vice president of HEA to the meeting to review the results, and then bring it to the board. Just so that they're involved at some point before this, it gets discussed in a larger forum and in a public forum. Is everybody okay with that?
I like that. I like the fact that let them do their job, and
Yeah,
then you can review the results,
Yeah.
and then have a discussion on which
Yeah.
way.
And the whole board will review the results. The whole board will discuss, and then, ultimately see, right, what we do with that. But okay, so are we all, go ahead, Mr. Martinez.
So I agree with everything that you're saying. Just wondering if we should create a list of what it is that we're looking for. That way,
I'm fine with that.
once it's done, we're just waiting on results, and that's it, case closed.
So, Ms. Augustin, you said that you were going to give us some more information on what they offer, and then we need to give you some input on what we're looking for.
Right, because this is a new process. I need to sit with each one of them to say, what is it that you can do? This is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Can this be a match for our district and what we need?
Yeah, so to that,
Yeah.
maybe the personnel management committee should meet beforehand, just to come up with some criteria of what we're looking for,
Madam President, I piggyback off what Mr. Guzman said. I would also have no issue, I think it'd be a good idea with what he said, if it's allowed, to have the president or co-president, whoever it is, HEA, would be allowed to submit their stuff, their feedback prior to as well, and it can all be done together. So this way, because again, the study, we spoke about it originally 3 months ago, it could say we don't have enough teachers. Could say, it doesn't mean that's gonna say that we have too many. Could be the opposite, could say, so whatever, I think it would be fair to have them have their input prior as well, and then go out and do it.
So then that goes back to
Right.
Mr. Guzman's original suggestion, maybe we should do that, just to come up with the criteria of what we're looking for. And-
That's fine, but during the work process,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah.
part needs to be.
And we
addressed.
wouldn't, that would,
Yeah.
that would skew it, so we wouldn't do that, but yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion, and I appreciate everybody's feedback. So maybe we could have the Personnel and Management Committee meet to discuss some criteria.
Whatever, whatever the direction the board wants to go, I'm open.
Yeah, so let's do that, the Personnel and Management Committee meet to discuss the criteria for this, what it is what we're looking for in this study, this survey. And then, report out to the board, but also report to, let Ms. Augustin know so that she can go back and compare that to what you're finding out from the consultants.
Yeah, and I think it's just another suggestion, since the personnel committee wasn't the only committee that was interested, you should
Right.
probably let all of the board members
I agree
send,
with that.
and,
Yeah.
their request to the chair of the personnel.
Well, that's what
committee.
I would like
Yeah.
the Personnel Management Committee to like lead it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right? So you lead it, and I guess you would ask Lois to send an email to all the board members asking for, however you wanna word it, Mr. Guzman, like,
sure.
how you wanna elicit that information from the other board members so that everybody can weigh in on
Okay.
what they want. And then you kind of put that together in a report with the HEA, with, the leadership of the HEA. And then that can be presented to the board, but also to Ms. Augustin so that she has something to work with.
when I'm sitting with. the
When you
consultant.
meet with, or she has something to give them when you meet with those consultants to see if that's something that they can do for us.
Yes.
So is everybody good with that?
Hey, personnel doesn't, it could go to another committee, it was just something that I suggested because,
Like you said, it could be an ad hoc, it don't have to just be.
yeah, you know what it is, I think this is something that I don't want rumors coming out saying that the board is up to this and up to that.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
No, it's a
Still,
good
they should-
suggestion, and I think
Yeah.
it makes sense to do the personnel management, so, but, please do look out for something that, will be sent to ask for your feedback on what you would like to see this survey and then the Personnel Management Committee will kind of put that all together, and then we can discuss that.
So the sooner the better, so I can get started with,
Okay.
I'll meet with them, but I wanna be able to have the information to,
Mm-hmm.
with them by the end of the month, if that's possible.
Okay, so then, Mr. Guzman, maybe if you could just reach out to Lois first, just to ask her to send out that email to all the board members. And then, you can plan with your committee members to meet and kind of go through that and put something together.
Understood, just for the record, personnel management is myself, Mr. Martinez, and Mrs. Johnson.
Okay.
But in the process, you'll still be setting it all up.
Right.
Yeah, I can reach, like the one person
Still
from
reach out,
Manchester,
so
I'll
like
reach
that.
out to them, because it sounded like they actually did this 2 years ago, but he was focused more on the master
Yeah.
schedule at the time, so I'll look into that and see what other services that he provides. I'll give him a brief kind of summary of what we've discussed in the last few board meetings, and see maybe there might be things that we haven't even thought about, so that he might suggest.
Yeah,
That.
I was gonna say, can you do that, and then
Yeah.
once you get that information, bring it to us, and maybe we can, from there, because we want to at least get the process started.
Okay, I'll see what I can get by the June 30th, but I think you guys should get started too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
they
You
should
should get
be
started. Don't wait for that. You can
Yeah.
go ahead and start getting other board members, feedback and, meet amongst yourselves to just kind of start forming like, what you yourselves think and how this is gonna look and, yeah. Okay, all right, that's great.
I can, if there's any agenda items that anybody would like to discuss, I don't want to monopolize the rest of the time
Any other-
here, but is
Any
there
questions
any
for Ms.
questions
Augustine?
for on the agenda items or anything on the bills list?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Augustine.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's go, let's see, I think it's state, county and state, Ms. Quadrado.
Just a couple things. We all know that the legislative day came out of their spring break. So there was a couple of things that the Senate did vote on the 2nd of June. It hasn't gone to assembly yet, but they did go on epilepsy and seizure disorder training. So basically they amended Paul's law requiring that training is done every 2 years instead of 5 years. And that hasn't been signed by the assembly yet. Another one is the chronic absenteeism task force. And that's just a study for absenteeism and to develop some recommendations on those. So that was passed by the Senate, and it's not yet with the Assembly. That's all we have so far.
Okay, and I did want to add that there's Passaic County SBA planning survey that's going around to, you know, ask for board members' feedback on the activities that they're planning for the coming year. So I know the emails from Rob Asara, and it was sent out on May 30th, but then he just sent it out again this morning, and the deadline is June 13th. So I mean, I did that last year. I haven't done it yet this year, but I did it the past couple of years, and it's not long. It won't take a long time if you just want to weigh in on, you know, what you'd like to see. And we have now the membership chair on our board, so you can let her know as well, so that she can bring that back to her, to the executive committee, which is also being head up by Mr. Guzman. Okay, so Mr. Merlino, anything?
No report tonight.
Okay, so let's go back, because I know I was supposed to do the agenda items thing first, but let's just do that real quick. We'll go through that and then we'll vote. So personnel management, Mr. Guzman?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to move item 7.1 through 7.24.
Should we do we need to do the agenda items, right? Items only, need to go through that
I mean,
first.
that's the format of.
Yeah, I'm
if you
sorry,
wanna
I
do
skipped
that.
ahead to state and county, so I messed everybody up, but would you mind just doing agenda items only, and then we'll go back?
Okay, so you want committee report?
Yes,
Nothing to report. I think we discussed what we discussed, and agenda items.
okay, thank you. Curriculum and technology, Mr. Ramadan.
Agenda items only.
Okay, policy and relations, Mr. Coletta.
We met earlier today, discussed the use of facilities policy as well as the mandate from the state for the upcoming sunscreen policy. The recommendation on the committee was not to change the use of the facility policy after review of the committee.
And and there are no agenda.
No
items.
agenda.
Okay,
Just the meeting.
okay, good. Security and safety, Mr. Guzman.
I think Mr. Walker spoke about the school evacuation drill. We brought in the Passaic County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit to do a sweep of the school. That sweep was done in accordance with the memorandum of understanding between law enforcement and school officials, and nothing else to report.
You guys did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, community engagement, Ms. Quadrado.
Nothing to report, agenda items only.
Okay, and finance and physical plant, Mr. Moscow.
Really, we went over the billing and other than that, agenda items.
Okay, so now we can go back for voting, personnel management, Mr. Guzman.
I'd like to move item 7.1 through 7.24.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Moscow. Roll call, please.
Madam
Just
President.
give me a second.
Yes,
Give me a second.
If we could, point of order, could we have discussion prior to voting on the agenda items that were just moved?
as a whole group, or do you want to ask questions before you vote?
I mean, I think it would be pertinent to the whole group. We're spending a lot of money hiring people. I mean, it's your
Okay.
prerogative.
Okay, so, all right, sure. Well, why don't you bring up what you want to discuss as a group?
All right, thank you. Madam President, my question is more for Mr. Walker, as he's the negotiator. I've been a staunch advocate for hiring people from within and doing right by the people that we already have here. And I'm looking at several new hires that are being recommended at an exorbitant step beyond the starting pay. I think when you look around the state, and there's well over 200 teachers who have been noticed of layoff or have been laid off, I think that it's in poor taste to bring in people from outside when now the supply is different than it was prior for teachers, and pay them more than current members of our actual union who are already here, as well as when we are discussing we had a loss of aid last year, and that's a trend that's continued from the last 2 years. I think it would be pertinent if we looked at the practice that we're using going forward in bringing people in at steps well above their starting initial pay. I understand that prior, when there was a teacher, there is still a teacher shortage, however, when there was not teachers being laid off in hundreds all over across the state, including Wayne, the Oranges, and several other places, I think the negotiating tactics that we're using should be adjusted to fit the time that we're actually in.
Okay, anybody want to comment?
Based on that, what I would say is, not that I'm agreeing, but I would like to kind of wait for that efficient study to be done before we go into any hiring. I mean, and if we're not gonna bring them in within it, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, can't someone else pick up the job to start it off with before we actually go into giving out that kind of money? I mean, I was looking at it, I was just gonna wait to vote, but I mean, if it's a discussion.
I'm not sure what the question was, but I'm guessing the question is, why are these salaries what they are?
Yeah, why are we going
There's
above?
four hires. I just looked
Every
at it
single
now.
person is being brought in well above the starting
Yeah,
step
so,
based on their.
Madam President, before Mr. Walker hires, can I give my input before he speaks?
I can give you some facts that might help.
Okay.
So of the three hires, the 7.3, there's 7.12 and 7, like the three new hires, the net breakage is going to be positive $2,000. Last week we talked about how the net breakage was way in our favor of the people we hired at the last board meeting. This breakage is 2,000 plus isn't terrible considering two of these are LLD special ed teachers, which is like, this is a very, very, very tough cert to get. And students within their IEPs need this cert. So their price point is going to be different, and there's two of them that we hired in this position. So that's kind of the market. We see if we look at the 7.3, we actually get about I think $15,000 or $16,000 breakage in our favor because it's an ELA position. So because it's an ELA position, we hired someone that had got ripped from their district, like Mike had talked about, with a certain amount of experience teaching. So we offered them, this was the price that we got them to say yes, because we thought they were good. You're gonna find for elementary positions, for things like history, things like English, we're gonna see breakage. It's very likely to be in our favor every time moving forward. For positions like Miss Bracey's position, that thing was open since October. And we had to use a vendor to get it because we couldn't find their own. There's just not that many applicants there. So we hired the first applicant that had the certification that applied. And that's the market is for those specialized LLD positions. But that's also why you'll see on an English position, you'll see a much lower price tag, or if it's a first grader, second grader, kindergarten, you're also going to see a much lower price tag on the employee.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bismarck.
No, I just wanna heard what Mr. Moxer said and Mr. Coletta said, but I just want to caution my fellow board members, because just to take into account that we voted on a budget that we passed and was approved by the county. So the superintendent has a job to do to hire, to make sure that the school is continuing to run the way it's been running for the last, since he's been here, with no lawsuits, no grievances, things of that nature. So we have to take that into consideration. I understand, this is my personal opinion, I understand that we may want to wait on the study, but to like full-blown hiring freeze until the study is done, I just feel we have to give our superintendent flexibility to use his budget to continue running the school the way it's been running. Now, if we had 100 members of the community here advocating for, let's say, don't hire any more teachers. This board is responsible with the money, and the teachers are submitting multiple grievances and lawsuits are flying. Then maybe, personally, I'll be like, okay, but that's not the situation we're in. It's clear that our district is healthy. So to just, all our hiring freeze and all these things, I think we need to relax. I think we're doing the right thing with doing this study that looks like it's forthcoming. But let's remember that we do have a budget, and we have to allow the superintendent to do his job. If we just freeze everything, then how are we gonna continue moving the district further? You know, there's things that the school needs to move forward, to operate. And I just wanna share that sentiment with everyone. I'm not saying anybody's wrong with what they're saying, I just wanna share that.
I agree, George. I understand the sentiment. I totally understand the sentiment. I think this is hiring season right now. If you look at this board meeting and last board meeting, if you look at the 6 or 7 employees that we've hired, the breakage is probably at least 15 to 20,000 in our favor over 6 total employees. That trend we're going to look to continue. It would have been a lot more. The number would have been a lot better in our favor if we hadn't had to have 2 LLD special ed, highly special ed certs involved in this. But that's just what was needed in this case, and this is what the market value is for that particular position.
And just as an FYI, these are all replacements. None of these are new. None of these are additional. They're all replacement positions. Go ahead,
Right,
Mr.
I mean, I agree with most of the opinions, Mr. Coletta, Mr. Guzman, and Moscow. The things, again, there's no question about what the superintendent is doing. I just want to make sure that's clear. We're not focusing on, we know his job, he knows his job, he knows what to do. But in the meanwhile, I think if we waited maybe a month or two, I don't see a harm in waiting before we hire again. So a freeze will do, it's not gonna hurt anybody. We're not gonna discount our students in the meanwhile for like 30, 60 days or 90 days. The synopsis that Mr. Colette is coming up with, it's also, I mean, it has a lot of weight on it too. It does serve the purpose intended, and it could yield something that's beneficial to the hiring process, and put a lid on, possibly on, or freeze a lid on the spending as far as budget concerned.
Good question. In the years, Mr. Walker, in the years that you've been hiring teachers or employees, I'm assuming this is springtime or right
This
before
is a
summer is when
busy,
you're
from now
hiring the
until
most?
August will be busy time for hiring.
Okay. From your experience, how easy is it to hire someone after that time? Or like if the months get closer towards August, does the less and less
The
people
closer we
apply?
get to Labor Day is what we call in the industry the Labor Day special. And then you get the candidate that someone gets a teaching job last second or a principal job last second, or they move away last second. And now we're coming up on Labor Day and I have 1 week or 1 weekend to hire someone, because I need someone to start that in that classroom ASAP. That rarely works out positively. But
You
these
get
are
a
the,
chance to actually evaluate.
those
and get the
candidates
person you want.
historically, it's very rare. You're getting the people that have had problems at other places, or looking to keep jumping from one place to another to try and hopscotch up the salary guides of places. Well, I've never had a positive experience with those kind of candidates. I think that, the 7.3 hire, I think it's a no-brainer. If you can get an English teacher for that price, you say yes, boom. That's a great price for ELA. I think that with the 2 LLD positions, these are very, very hard to get. So, if we don't get them now, we probably either have to keep, hopefully the service is available if this board says no. And if there's not a service available, we have to hire someone in a couple months from now, I think it would be disadvantageous to the district.
I probably have to pay more.
I think you'd be getting a Labor Day special price, which would be for us not in our favor.
And also not the best candidates. There's a chance that you're not gonna get the best candidates. Again, these are not new hires, these are replacement. We need to replace these positions.
And
So that's important to keep in
and
mind.
Based on what you asked, the history, we just got off COVID, so the history could be anywhere from 2 years. You're asking about
Well, no, I mean.
last 2 years, 1 year?
Yeah, in the last couple of years.
1
because-
year, 2.
But
because
even in the
COVID,
last,
we
but even
had-
in the last 10 years, there's still a pattern.
No, it's a
Right, there's a
pattern,
pattern
right?
that either in the springtime is when it gets really busy to hire
Yeah.
for the new school year. And then, there's also a pattern, like he said, the Labor Day special. So he answered the question as far as to, what I wanted to get answered as far as, the time.
I'm
the
sure
timeline.
that if the board doesn't wish to move, I really recommend the board do something. I think it's such a good value. If the board wants to, do something with 7.6 or 7.7. I know that we're gonna lose the candidates. It's not like they're gonna wait 2 months for us when they get a job anywhere else. It's a very good chance that at least one of the two, we probably have to go with the service, if the service is possible. It's possible that we could get someone for less money in August or September. I think for kids in this particular population, these are our kids that have the most need. Like, these are kids that often have multiple disabilities. So I think locking them up with someone that's going to be on our staff that's not contracted out, that we control, I think it's a benefit to these students. So that's my best professional opinion for this board.
And I also want to remind everyone that, we have remained fully staffed because of the good practices that the administration has been doing. I think we need to keep that in mind.
And I agree. I mean, it's perfect, but we're talking about, we just finished having discussions, the last meetings about the budget, raising taxes and where we can cut. Look, we don't even have sandwiches here, so we can cut. And that's just, I'm just saying, I mean, look, it's, so we're talking about, that's just where I'm looking at it. Look, I'm, for one, I know you've been doing a great job, Mr. Walker. Everything has been in place. I'm just saying, from the last meetings, I've been paying more attention maybe now, but we're just in it now. Yeah, with the sandwiches and I'm hungry, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's, like Mr. Ramona said, a
just
few months.
verification, that since these are replacement,
Right.
are we able to take them at a lower step? Instead of, is the
Adding
object to
support.
match him to the job and pay him at that money since we budgeted or have it in the account? Or we, not necessarily, we could hire him at a 1 step or 2 steps down?
I could offer them, this is the number, this number represents the number that they said I'll sign.
Okay, but
With
was
this
this across it? Because
We started out
here,
lower.
just trying
We
to
started
match
out
it?
negotiations lower. This was the number when you're, like, for the person replacing Ms. Bracy. We haven't had anyone apply for this job since October, right? So, like, you're in a really strong position negotiating wise if you're a person with that cert that says, hey, I'm willing to do this job. It's not going to take too much research to go through our board meeting and see when Ms. Bracy retired and resigned and go somewhere else, and the spot's still open. You're going to know you're in a position of strength if you're clever enough. It's also the kind of thing where, with each employee, it's a 1-year contract, and if they fulfill the performance of the job up to a certain extent, we keep them. If we get bad news from state aid, the newest employees are going to be the first ones that have to go. So it's not like we're locked into these employees for the next 30 years. We're locked into them until next year when we see what state aid looks like.
And
My
on that
recommendation
on that
is,
particular one, you said we're on a surplus of 2,000.
I would say that over the last board meeting's agenda, I think you go on YouTube to see what it is, but I think we were up to like 15 or 16 or 17,000 net breakage because we had 3 in our favor. This time we have 1 in our favor, which is the English spot, which is why I really recommend you say yes to that one. The EL, the special ed spots, this is just the market value right now for this highly specialized and not really often held to certification. I wish I could tell you yes or no. I could guarantee you that we can get a service for these spots right now, but even that's getting kind of competitive.
Mr. Cullen, is your point that we are paying the new hires more than what we are paying the people that are already currently here?
Different jobs.
But my point as a public employee who's been laid off myself and have been in this actual situation, I understand when you have an abundance now of people who are looking for employment because there's people who are actually have or about to lose their job at the end of this year, that the negotiation is no longer the same as it was when you have good times, you have bad times. While this is not a bad time where we're not ripping people's positions, we're not firing people, we're not reduction in force, but it is a time where the negotiation, in my opinion, is more in our favor. And this is as someone who's gone through it personally on both sides, and I've sat and negotiated contracts with police departments as a union representative. Typically, this is a time where you can win and save money. And I would think as a union member, if I was here I would be kind of insulted when one meeting we're talking about cuts in budget, the next meeting, someone in the same position is being brought in at a step higher than the entry level step.
So Mike, I
Yeah.
won't.
And it's not personal,
I
and we've
really-
had good conversation
we're all
about this,
good,
it's
but-
not personal
But
attack.
to add on to
Yeah.
that, so I don't ever want to speak for the association, right? But I will say, and I know they would agree, a very common conversation that we've had at least once or twice every year since I've been here has been if a teacher, when they see a board agenda item and the teacher's placed on a step, because they know that everyone else in the union is going to look at it and say, well, this person, they're there and I start out here. And pre-pandemic, you mostly started teachers on step one. And if someone worked for like 8 years in Lakeland or Sag Tech and you look to start them at step 8, to show that reciprocity, to get them to say yes to come to your school. But this is a conversation at least once a year I've had with the union about if they think that like a hiring of a certain dollar amount is going to ruffle feathers. And a lot of times they'll say, well, listen, this person has 28 years of experience, or this person has that, this and that. We've always been able to handle that internally in our weekly meetings. Again, I don't want to speak for Diane and Amanda, but I will verify that they would agree that we've had that conversation many times.
And one of the hires is a RIF, right? One that you mentioned?
One of them
One of
is,
them
I'm not
is-
sure where we got him from, but I think it might have been Lakeland or one of those
Okay.
schools in there.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Griffin.
I just want to also say that in terms of hiring and where you're bringing someone in theory, it sounds wonderful. Well, Mr. Walker, why don't you bring them in at step one? If we're not competitive as to what other districts are paying their teachers, then guess what? They may come in, but we're gonna lose them right away. So you have to weigh all that as well. I know in theory, just start them out the low step. We have to save money. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. But then if we bring them in at a very low step, they're going to leave, and we're gonna have a revolving door here. And then what happens? Education goes down. It's happened in other districts. We have to pay our teachers what a going rate is for a teacher around our region, because we don't want to lose our teachers.
However, we paid Willie P a portion to be in good standing, and you get your hires some funds from Willie P, right? And then we have the NJSBA that can also help with finding people that we need to hire. So we have options.
William Patterson's huge. They're huge.
William Patterson,
Yeah, they're huge.
Like that was a discussion a couple meetings ago. We paid them so that you have a
They're a
relationship.
big
So
asset, yeah.
So
And
if,
some of them have been hired from
Well,
William
what if,
Patterson.
when you go to like I go to the job fairs, right? What I'm really looking for is a special education major. What I'm really looking for is the math major. What I'm really looking for is a science teacher. What I'm interviewing, there's a line like 4 or 5 deep to interview me is the 2nd grade teacher, the 3rd grade teacher, the kindergarten teacher. That's what most college undergrad students that we're seeing locally are applying for, or looking to get their certification. In fact, like it was a miracle we were able to get the foreign language teacher that's going to replace Senior. We met her at the Montclair, either the Montclair or the William Patterson, one of those 2 job fairs. But that was like a unicorn just finding that. At the Montclair one, we talked to a whole bunch of phys ed teachers, a whole bunch of elementary teachers, a whole bunch of preschool teachers, and a whole bunch of people that wanted to be high school English teachers. And that was it. And that was after interviewing 30 people. Like we didn't get science people, we didn't get what we're really looking for, because they're just not there right now. And that's why the last couple of years we've had to use vendors. The vendors are also equally pricey. And we have less control over them. So, there's that negative.
so basically, I'm sorry to cut you off, you're just saying that it's easier to hire an English teacher at a lower rate than it is a specialized teacher because they're hard to
My
come
goodness,
by
yes.
and they're not applying since October.
Yeah, the
So therefore,
elementary
when we
teachers
get,
right
when we
now
get
are.
someone that's licensed and good to go and ready to go, we want to take that opportunity.
Yep, it's very,
Let's
very,
do that.
very difficult. And Ms. Turner's point, like that partnership with William Patterson, that's great. And it does help us get a whole lot of teachers. But right now there's less people graduating that are going to get a certificate to become a teacher than there are people retiring. There's more people retiring right now from the New Jersey teaching workforce. So we're still out of deficit. I think what happened, to Mike's point about why are some schools laying off so many people, what we didn't do with our ESSER funds is we didn't just make 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 new positions. Like a lot of, even Verona, who did RIFs, I thought it was a bad idea that they created so many new spots, because if after 3 years, when you don't have the money for it, no one likes having to lay off this many people, but if you're a district where you've got a whole lot of COVID money and you just created a whole lot of positions, this is kind of what got you to the point where you're making a newspaper laying 40 people off. I think we started one new position with Cosgrove's SEL position. That's the one position we made, which I thought was a sensible position to use ESSER
We're
for.
encouraged to create
And
that
it's-
social emotional.
And it's created benefits, and it still creates benefits, but I think that's part of one of the reasons we were able to avoid being in the position that a lot of other local schools are. And what I'm looking to do is with my elementary hires to try and keep them as close to step one as I can possibly get them. And for the specialists, it's, we're gonna need someone to work with these, because the students that these people are gonna work with, like, they have big time needs, right? And multiple big time needs, and this is the price you have to pay for a teacher that can do that.
Madam President,
Yes.
so a lot of districts are having a lot of issues, and Mr. Molina maybe could touch on this, in terms of what happened with the COVID money, all this COVID money. This district doesn't have that problem. You know what I mean? We, like Mr. Walker said, this board didn't create 1 million positions, none of that. If anybody want to look at where the COVID money went, just look at that big addition over here that we did without having to raise taxes. So we can show where our funds went during COVID. Our VA, our superintendent did a phenomenal job in looking after those funds. Again, we've trusted them before. We have to continue to trust our administration. I'm going to continue saying that.
The thing is too, thank you, George. I appreciate that. And we've noticed too, like, we've called a lot of the people that are laying people off. In order to make up the revenue that they need to make up, they have to lay off all their first, second year teachers. And a lot of them are elementary teachers where it's not really, that I already had anyway, right? They're able to structure their RIFs to kind of protect the hardest to get spots, which I would do the same thing if I were in their shoes. So but to Mike's point, I totally get Mike's point. I get what everybody here is saying.
All right, are we ready to vote?
Sure.
Ready? Okay, all right, let's go.
Do you mind?
Yep.
Repeating the, for who motioned it first and second?
Oh.
I didn't get that.
Oh, okay, so I actually don't remember now, but I think,
It was.
George motion, and I
You
second.
okay, so Mr. Guzman, moved by Mr. Guzman and seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mrs. Serna,
I'm gonna say no to 7.1, 7.3, 7.5, 7.9, 7.6, 7.7.
slow down.
Oh, this 20.
Say the ones you're not gonna say.
7.1,
abstain from.
7.2.
Sorry, what do you have?
Can you start over again? Can you
Okay.
start from the beginning?
1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 20. And everything else.
Mr. Coletta.
My list is shorter.
Okay.
No to 7.6, 7.7, 7.12, and 7. I believe it's 18. Let me confirm. That's it. Yes, everything else.
Ms. Quadrado.
I just have a quick question.
Mhm.
For 7.2, the yearbook stipend, is that going up or down? Because I couldn't find it in the past.
That is a part of the collectively bargained agreement, and I believe it's whatever this year's rate was. Next year it'll have its own rate. I could send you a copy of the current CBA, but next year it'll probably go up maybe $50 or something like that, maybe at the most, whatever the current rate is.
I think the question you're asking, because it says revised on there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a typo on the previous resolution. It said $240. So now we're revising it to pay her the actual amount of $2,340.
The number 3 didn't make it on there.
And then I just also had a question about, like, when the new hires, like when you put the new hires, is it possible for us to get like a comparison of the teacher that they're replacing, like their step and their salary?
Yeah, I could do that to you before noon tomorrow. It's easy.
Are you saying going forward, you
And
want that on the
going forward,
agenda?
yeah,
Okay, so
going
you,
forward.
all right, so we're putting the replacement name, so now you guys want to put the salary and the step that they're, that the other person was making, or you wanna have that?
I would suggest that if everyone agrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yes,
And knowing that there may be some caveats, there may be some conversation around that, but it's good to have the information, so that the board members have the information. And
Okay.
We shouldn't have to be
And
on
if
the
it's-
agenda, maybe you could just email us.
yeah, and it's understanding that, the steps are different according to their experience, but just so that we
Right.
get like a visual of what the
works.
steps will be,
And
yeah,
it-
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine. Mr.
So my word is yes.
Mr. Guzman?
I think that was a great discussion we just had. I'm actually liking the balance on the board. I think it's really good, healthy, I think it's needed. However, we have a school district to run and to operate, my vote is yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
I have a question. What is 7.1, the leadership, what is that, like
So,
mentoring?
yeah, so I went through this, when I was a first year principal. Everyone, when you become a vice principal,
Mm.
the state gives you a certificate of eligibility, which allows you to operate for 2 years as a principal or assistant principal. Everyone with that cert has 2 years to complete a residency program called Leaders to Leaders. So Ms. Polizano and Mr. Spizzato, they're in that 2-year window. It's a mandatory thing the state requires of them. The school has to pay, I think, a $900 upfront fee to get them started on this. And then they have a $1,500 first year fee and a $1,000 year fee for year 2, paid to their mentor. It's something that every school principal I know that's in the last 10 or 15 years would have had to go through that. It's just when we hired Mr. Spizzato and Ms. Polzano at a step where they weren't really experienced, so it wasn't like
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but this is a cost that we had to incur because of their experience, or because they were new, that's why.
Okay, so, no to 7.3, 6, 7, and 12, yes to everything else.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
No, 7.3, 6, 7, 12, yeah, yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Well, I understand it's a replacement. However, no to 7.3, 6, 7. And can I seek verification on 7, the appointed certificate, 17, 15, and 16?
Let's say again,
715 and 716.
when you say verification,
Because they're saying you're appointing certified staff and paying them like X amount of dollars. Are those chosen, or that's the existing, or we replacing, or?
these are all people that are currently on staff. These are not, none of them is new. These are all people that go from, we're saying that they're coming back again next year.
And they're certified because they have a teacher certificate. That's what the certified staff is. Because they have to have their certificate in order to teach.
And 716, isn't that extreme a little bit, or no?
This is an occupational therapist. If they have occupational therapy in their IEP, again, these are for kids with multiple disabilities where, this very basic occupational functioning is part of it. If we didn't have that many kids, if we'd outsource it, but we have enough kids where it makes sense to have a full-time.
Madam President, for 715, if I could just add, I believe that's just their movement along the contract for the existing people to make it easier. That's just where the people that already work here, they're going to whatever step the collective bargaining agreement is for next year.
You said it well, people, thank you.
Okay, yes for the rest.
So we're only saying no to 7.3,
No hires. or replacement.
6, and 7. Okay. Mrs. Issa?
We need to keep the school fully staffed. We need to have good teachers. Yes, to all of them. So let's go down to finance and fiscal accounts.
12.1, I'd like to move 12.1 to 12.16.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cerna?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado?
I'm going to abstain from 12.13. And then from 12.15, I'm abstaining from PO 500, 326 and 500, 431. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes, I like to abstain from 12-15 PO 501-027 through 501-030 and 500-898. Everything else, yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes. Okay, all right. So now moving on to new and old business. I have an item, but does anybody have anything for new or old business? Yes.
Madam President, I did reach out, I might have been missed in the email, but I sent long emails with Mr. Waka. Do we have any movement on the requested list regarding our standing for mapping English scores against the comparable schools in our county?
You want it for the county?
Yeah, for our
That's what
county.
exactly what.
Yeah, for our county,
Yeah, that's it.
not the high schools, or just the,
You want you want grade 3 through 8 for every district in the county, all 12 of them or 13 of them?
yeah, we can.
Okay.
And,
Give me till Friday?
That's fine, by the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
let's see, what was the goal that we, not a goal, it was one of the recommendations that that the Curriculum and Technology Committee was going, this is actually what I'm gonna bring up. So that was one of the, well, you know what, this is what I was gonna talk about, so does anybody else have anything for new or old business? Okay, so, at the last meeting, we talked about some of the, we talked about the goals that we, laid out at our retreat, 2 of the existing ones, and then we added another one. And then we also talked about some outcomes and initiatives that we thought would be helpful. They're not goals, but we thought would be helpful to move our district forward, to help our board move, our board work together effectively. So, and we did have some, I just want to go over them again real quick and just to name the people who had volunteered for certain ones, and that's actually one of them was requesting, more data. So the first one was establishment of an onboarding program for new board members. So for that one, Ms. Quadrado and Mr. Martinez volunteered to work on that one. The second one was enhancement of committee structure and function. So I'm gonna work on that one. And then we don't have anybody else yet on that one. The third one, so the third one we said we were gonna put a pin in it for now. It was midterm public check-in on strategic plan progress, because this kind of ties into our new goal regarding getting regular check-ins on the strategic plan, how we're doing, if we could make any improvements. So unless somebody wants to, work on that as part of an ad hoc committee, we could kind of put a pin in that one for now. The fourth one was to schedule updates. Oh, no, that was our goal, schedule. So then the next schedule updates on district goals. That was our goal. And then the fifth one was countywide data review for student achievement. So that's the one that Mr. Coletta just referenced. And the Curriculum and Technology Committee was going to work on that one. And that was to better understand and monitor student performance relative to regional benchmarks. The administration to provide countywide academic data, reports to be aligned with board committee requests, particularly construction, curriculum and instruction. The committees may submit specific data requests to administration for more detailed insight into trends and concerns. Use findings to inform policy decision and priority. So maybe, what you should talk about when you meet is, what other kind of data would be helpful, to help inform our work. So just a couple things. I want everyone to be involved in these initiatives. So we do have a few people that have already, volunteered to be on certain ones. And then the members of the Curriculum and Technology Committee will be on that 5th one. But I would like everybody to be involved in one of these. So, I'm going to, I'll give everybody a week and I can send this out. I think it's included in the report that we got from Kelly Mitchell, but I can ask Lois to send these out. And then, I'll give you like a week and just get back to Lois, which one you would like to be involved in. If I don't hear back from you, I'll just assign you to one of them. So if you have an interest in one of these, you should definitely let Lois know. Otherwise, I'll assign everybody so that everybody is on at least one of these. And then, for the time frame, I suggest that you meet over the summer, like after the June 30th meeting, things usually, I don't want to say they slow down, but there's sometimes our agendas are a little bit lighter in the July and August meeting. Meet during that time, because in the September meeting, we should report out all these ad hoc committees should report out on their progress so far. I mean, there's not a hard timeline for, any of these, but we should start working on it. I think they're all things, and we all, agreed that they were things that would help our district. And, we should start working on it. So the summer is the best time to do that. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Being on the new member, I guess like orientation committee, I just wanted to know, like, is it possible for me to request everyone to send me something that was challenging to them when they onboarded?
Yes, but ask Lois to word it how you want it worded, and then send it to Lois and ask her to send it to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, and then please, if you get requests from any of these requests regarding these initiatives, respond. And now that you mentioned that, you reminded me, at our retreat, it came up. One of the things that we talked about were the topics. It was one of our recommendations from the last retreat, topics that have to do with, educational topics that it would be good for board members to talk about, just for our own education and our own information to help inform us. And we got some suggestions for topics, and I think we've discussed 3 of them. We have one more, but I want to circulate that list again, so that if anybody has any other, suggested topics. So I'll ask Lois to circulate that as well. Okay. And what was the other thing? So the timeline, everyone, okay, that's it. So just keep that in mind that time. So if I don't hear from you in a week, I'll assign you for the next meeting. Yes.
I have something for like old and new.
Okay.
All right, it's just a thing here. I serve on 2 other boards here in Helton. MUA being the one I've served for 10 years. And the Board of Health has been one that I served for 8.5. And it's a big problem now because today I'm missing out again on my MUA board meeting because of a Monday. So when I first joined here, the school was on Tuesday. MUA was on Monday. Board of Health is on Wednesday. Now I find myself like, school meeting could be a Monday, could be a Tuesday, could be a Wednesday, and it interferes with the other, and now it's becoming a thing because now I'm missing out on 2 meetings consecutively. And I understand the school is, I'm elected here, but I feel like I'm elected on each of them. I feel good on each board. And, and before we start changing days around on the Board of Health, as we discussed, we have other members here also that's on that board. And Board of Health is kind of depleting, without Ms. Johnson, First Lady, doing some morning activities and stuff like that and keeping it going. But that is something that I would like for us to kind of look into and see what we can do to kind of, Board of Health is only once a month, maybe twice, MUA is only once a month, and school is twice. So it's just, those are just 1 meeting a month, and I don't really want to be missing out on that.
Lisa, if this board would like Tuesdays, I'm 100% on board with that.
Okay, but I am concerned because now we have our meetings laid out for the whole year, you know, and I mean, I know that I plan my schedules
Are
around.
you saying?
It would have to
February?
be for,
Yeah,
it would have
moving
to be
forward.
for,
Yeah, that's.
Moving forward. I
well,
mean,
moving forward, starting January of
starting
2023.
January,
Yeah.
knowing that, I may, I may be out or come late for a meeting or something, but, my obligations is to all boards that I serve here in Halifax.
So, the board used to meet on Tuesdays, the school board used to meet on Tuesdays. So, but Mr. Walker had a conflict, is,
This is my job, so that I think Mr. Mox's point is valid.
No, but I mean, it's
And
just,
I
we
think
can
this
come
is a
to
good, this is a really good conversation. I think it's a very professional conversation. I think that at the time I asked this board, I'm like, hey, can you make this accommodation? But now, if, it's been brought up at the retreat, it's been brought up, tonight. If that accommodation is becoming cumbersome, then my obligation is to hail them, number one. They're my employer. So if that's what needs to happen, with the new reorg schedule starting in January, that's something that I'll 100% be part of.
well, how do we all feel about that if we move the meetings back to Tuesdays?
I'm okay with it. Yeah, because it,
With
if it
that,
works- if it works
starting in
for you guys,
2026.
right?
Starting in
Consistency
2026.
is better than.
I agree,
One here, one
consistency
here,
is
one
better.
there.
It's been
The
it's
work
been
is tough
Wednesdays,
sometimes,
but
yeah.
sometimes it's had to be Monday when there's a conflict on a Wednesday.
Because it's 3 of them on
But-
the board, so yeah, I think it'll work Tuesday.
Okay, so so everybody is,
So when, Madam President, when we went to this, the superintendent did have a conflict, but he made it clear from the beginning that shouldn't be a problem. He doesn't mind going to Tuesday, so. Yeah, I'm whatever, Tuesday, Monday, whatever.
Yeah, I
whatever
mean,
you guys want.
and we're gonna lay out the MUA board meetings, like I said, it's only once a month. I just hate
So,
to kind of miss it.
Carlos, can you get the superintendent those dates of the
No, yeah,
boards?
yeah,
What
no,
what
yeah.
days they meet?
Mhm.
Was it Manchester's Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
Thursdays are.
yeah.
And then MUA is,
It's on Mondays.
and then,
Board of Health is Wednesday.
Keep in mind though too, that we get the agendas, so when the meeting is on Wednesday, we get the agenda on Friday. We have extra, when the meeting is on Monday, it's tough because you only have like a very short time to get through that agenda. When it's on Wednesday, you have a little extra time, so, maybe Wednesday would be, I don't know, I mean, I guess we can discuss it,
Well, we could do, because Lisa and I,
We got time.
when we go to school board, that's when we kind of carve out time to map out a calendar for the next year. We could look to prioritize the Tuesday, and if there might be occasional things that come up on Tuesday for conflicts, and we could work around that, but I think I think this board on a Tuesday, that if that's the default, and then we let everything else adapt as well.
Okay, all right, so this is for 2026.
and I just want to put, since we're on the topic, can we please get on the same page with the borough? Because I feel like we always have to move our reorg. So, and it's okay, Mr. Walker's very accommodating, but let's
I'm
just.
sure you know somebody.
No, well, you're the superintendent, you get paid the big bucks. If we can get on board with the borough and with Manchester, so we're on the same page about the reorg. I know we try and things get a little, but I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
And I have to throw another chip in, I hate to say that, but also we have a planning and zoning. Yeah, but in case, things get shoved around.
Any other group, any other?
No, we-
Mike, what do you got?
Real quick.
Can we throw the library?
Is that on Tuesdays?
That's
No,
normally on
Thursday.
Thursdays.
Okay, so Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Tuesdays
Thursdays
and Wednesdays.
are not,
Sometimes we have
it would be a
crossover
conflict
Leave
with
Tuesdays
Lamika.
alone.
No, Thursdays we can't, because
No, okay.
then we have a conflict
Manchester,
with Lamika and Manchester,
No, no,
so yeah,
Tuesdays,
so that's
Tuesdays
not, okay,
Tuesday.
Lamika would rather be here anyway. Stop.
Okay,
Let me
the-
just hear everything.
The other thing that I did want to bring back up was a motion that was tabled at the last meeting regarding the New Jersey Royals using the field and there was the specific stipulations. It was weeknights and on Saturdays in spring and summer only. We tabled it because the policy committee was going to meet to discuss whether the policy should change regarding charging, for certain organizations. The recommendation from the policy committee has been to not change the policy. So I think that we can move ahead with this motion. Not a vote, we're gonna put it on because Mr. Walker is going to do a contract.
I'm gonna work to create a good contract. Basically, you know, during the fall, our soccer kids are gonna use that field. They get the first priority. I don't want anyone else on the field. Wintertime's wintertime. I don't want anyone on the field. Springtime, our girls are gonna be the priority. And I don't want any baseballs getting hit to where like kids are playing, because if there's boys there, they're gonna be able to reach the field. Now I worry about a little kid getting hit. You know, if it's a Saturday, and you know, we have a custodian there anyway to open up, you know, I would be okay with it. It's not costing us any money, because they'd have to at least incur the cost of the custodian plus the fee that's, you know, put in like Schedule 2 or whatever, Class 2. And then, you know, summertime, I got the kids out there for camp Monday through Friday, so there's really no, I don't want any baseballs whizzing into hitting them when they're playing. But summertime in the evenings, you know, we're not using the fields. If they want to take a night out of that, I could live with that. I want to be as accommodating to, I just want to get our kids as much exposure to, you know, a positive program. But at the same time, there's only so much we can do, and there's you know, our kids and our sports teams are going to be the priority, and also the protection of the little kids that I got playing in the playground. They're going to be the priority. So I know my parameters are kind of limited, but you know, there is a little bit of a window that we look to offer.
So you'll do a contract based on that, and then that will be on the finance and fiscal plan, a part of the agenda for the June 30th meeting, and then we can vote on that.
Yeah, and I don't expect anyone to be using no matter what the board votes. We would probably look for it to be a spring 2016 if anything start. I just don't think I don't think it's going to materialize and start this summer this early.
Okay.
Especially with the two projects that are be going on here with the HVAC in the front door. There's going to be a lot going on here, so I don't want to look to move forward until then.
Okay.
Everyone remembers my point of view, or my stance on that. It is my hope that we continue pursuing this too, which is our community engagement extracurricular committee working in conjunction with the rec committee, so we can kind of get on the same page as it pertains to recreation and everything for our children to move forward. And I'm glad that they vetted that whole situation, and personally, I'm all for it. Also, Mr. Walker, maybe they would want to do maybe a clinic or something in the summer. You know, I don't know if you're opposed to that. But I think it's my hope that the school district and the town can be on the same page as it pertains to sports and recreation. You know, use of facilities, teams, everything else. We want the next Michael Jordan to come out of Hilton, or the next Derek Jeter. And that's never going to happen until we're on the same page with the town. And I know the folks at the town are more than willing to work with the school district, and I know we're more than willing to work with the town. So let's make that connection once and for all, and let's have a phenomenal rec program for our kids. You know, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
And I concur. That's why it's very important that we keep them all in the same district, from elementary all the way through high school. You don't just give up and give them away after 8th grade. If we want to keep something in the community, right? Utilize the rec, right? Everything stays within, right?
The only difference I see with who you allow on the field is Southside Soccer that makes a profit. Everything else is a nonprofit, like MJF, and the Royals is a nonprofit. But the Southside Soccer is a profit, and I think we should be charging.
And it's a pretty hefty tuition for that.
No, it is. It is.
Well, I mean,
It's also local, right?
maybe Mr. Coletta would like
It's a
to,
travel.
hold on, maybe Mr. Coletta would like to comment on our discussion that we had through the policy, and Mr. Walker too. But I'll just, you know, give my thoughts on that. When you look at the policy, and maybe we should circulate the policy to all the board members for the space rental, there are 3 different classifications of groups that can use the facilities, and some of them are not charged. So obviously the first group is like any clubs or groups that are from the school. Obviously, we're not going to charge them, and they have priority. And then there's a second group that's like more some rep groups or organizations, things like that. And then there's a third group that is like a for-profit, but some of them kind of fall in the middle, you know, so you know, Southside could be one of those, is one of those that kind of falls in the middle. They do, I don't know what they charge, my kids don't play on that.
But we're not talking about the school, they don't use, Southside don't use the school here.
Southside uses our
Southside
gym
does.
during the winter
The
time.
gym.
They use it, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, Jim,
Well, Southside Soccer does get a charge for Manchester.
Yes, they're for profit.
that's right.
I think,
We
I
charge
think
them.
legally, and I would kick it to Merlino, I don't know how you can have a for-profit using our facilities if we're not making money on it.
Exactly, it's,
It's in your
No
policy that they
team, no
should
team,
be
look.
charged.
Heldon, which are the teams out of Heldon? Wildcats?
Oh, you mean the school?
Yeah, like, yeah, right?
The HPS podcast. So
Right.
if this board
Right.
wants me to, this board wants me to sit down and say, listen, this board wants to enforce this policy, we want to charge you beginning September. I think that's a fair play. If, you know, we're giving them 3 months notice, hey, we're gonna start charging you. I can
Okay,
do that.
Mr. Coletti, he's the chair of the policy committee, please. go ahead.
So we discussed it in length, so I was under the impression that it was a not-for-profit. I don't participate, my children don't participate, so I only know what we know through here. Based on the policy, and Mr. Merlino can, if he's still on, can verify what he thinks, his legal opinion, but I think that that would fall then under the class 3. And then if we're gonna follow the policy, then going forward, they should be charged in accordance with the policy. If they were a non-for-profit, then I would say, hey, because our discussion at length was, we want to afford the kids of the town the opportunity to use the facilities, because that's what they're here for. We give them as much opportunity as possible.
Sure.
But if we're gonna follow the policy, then the policy says if it is for profit, they should be being charged.
Madam President?
Yes.
So another thing too is, Southside Soccer, just using some example, they do a phenomenal job, they're in our community. Nobody's saying that we need to charge them an arm and a leg, no one is saying that, but, you know, something reasonable, something, you know.
We have a fee, we have a
It's
schedule of
It's a
fees.
scheduled fee.
Yeah, we have a schedule of fees that we charge for, whether it's the gym or the field, or, you know, actually, could Lois just circulate the policy and the bylaws that you sent to the policy committee? Could she send that to everybody just for their,
Sure.
for their
Yeah, and it's here,
reference?
and it does have a schedule of fees on the back,
Yeah.
and it also, to Mr. Coletta's point, Southside does, fall in class 3.
But then we know for sure that, I
know
believe
for
you're right,
sure.
but you know,
I know
grow
for
apart for
sure,
sure,
yeah.
right?
Okay, so then maybe that, it sounds like that
I
contract
think
will have
that
to be looked
I
at
think-
again for September.
I think we say that if they want to be here September, that we're gonna look to enforce the policy, here's the price. I believe what you guys are saying, that they're
Yeah,
for profit.
I have a
Let's double
copy of
check
their
that, but yeah.
W-9, I'm sure.
And if they're doing it in Manchester, then obviously.
When did
Yes,
when did we
it does.
adopt those prices, and is that something we wanna reconsider?
When was this
Because that's our
policy made?
policy,
It's
so.
two thousand twelve, well, and actually, it was revised last, I don't have it with me.
No, I'm just, I don't know what it is,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
curious.
It's not high.
2012.
That was the revised, but you approved the fees on May 13, 2024. So every year where we
Oh,
approving
okay.
these fees, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's been in existence.
And we
just
did
wasn't-
talk about that, because we looked at the schedule piece in the committee meeting, and I mean, it's, you know, we don't want it to be prohibitive, you know, we wanna help the organizations in our
Sure,
community,
yep.
especially if our kids are in those, if our students are in that, so we don't want it to be prohibitive. The fees are, you know, I think they're very reasonable, you know, and it depends on what class you are, and actually, class 2, there is a fee. So even if Southside were considered class 2, we could charge them a fee. So, you know, but, so, yeah, Lois will circulate the policy to everybody just so that you can look at it. And, you know, as regarding Southside, well, you know, it sounds like we may have to, you know, charge them going forward. But as far as New Jersey Royals, which is the motion that was on, that we tabled, Mr. Walker will work on a contract with them. It'll be on the finance and physical plant agenda, part of the agenda for the June 30th meeting, and then we can vote on that.
So is it not for facility usage, or is it contract for what?
Facilities rental,
You
space
don't need
rental
a
field.
contract, you just need to fill out a
The
facility
form,
use form.
the form, yeah.
And
The-
these
I just
are
wanna
the
come to
ones-
understanding, so we,
Considered
Yeah,
I just wanna put
It's a
it,
it's a space rental
right.
form.
Yeah,
It's a space
I
rental.
wanna
form, so it's
specify
not-
exactly when and
Yeah.
who and that.
Yeah, because there are stipulations, yeah, so. Okay, is there anything else for new and old? Oh, and then, Ms. Quadrado, I don't think that the, regarding that specific topic, I don't think that the, community engagement needs to meet on that because it's been resolved within policy and finance. So just regarding that specific motion. Okay, so, anything else for new and old business? Okay, so, can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on operation of schools?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Coletta. Was that you, Ms. Quadrado, that seconded? Seconded by Ms. Quadrado. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the floor is open to citizens on agenda items only. I mean, I'm sorry, not, just general.
All
Anything,
items.
Mr. Mill?
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we do have an executive session. Action will not be taken. And I'm going to say, between 30 and 45 minutes.
Motion to go to executive.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Coletta. We have to do roll call for that, right? Ms. Augustin?
Yes.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Mrs. Serna?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mr. Dorado?
Yes.
Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson? Yes. Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Disco?
Yes. Okay,
So you'll close out for me
and I'll note, who, yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Good night.
When you come out of executive, you just do roll call, then when we. Do roll call when we come out of
When we
executive.
come out, yeah, so
Okay.
come out of the executive. And then adjourn again.
I can't do it the midnight.
And then,
We're good, okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So, Ms.
Second.
Quadrado, second,
Second.
Ms. Johnson, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everybody.